If not for a Zachary LaRue slew foot, we're probably talking a little differently about Jared Spurgeon's 2024-2025 season. So how'd he grade out?
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we are your team each and every day. And we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we're going to evaluate Jared Spurgeon's 2024-2025 season. Shocker, came down to health, but there wasn't a lot that Spurgeon could do about it. We'll tell you exactly why that is the case. And we'll put a letter grade down, and we'll take a look at what the future holds in store for the Minnesota Wild captain. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, host of Seth on Sports. As you are probably seeing on social media, now I am also the arena voice and stadium voice for Minnesota State University men's football and hockey for this upcoming season. So very excited to get that underway. We'll talk more about that here as I get a little more acclimated. So a lot to get to here on today's show. That's part of the reason, too, that we did not have episodes the last couple of days. There's a lot going on, and we're juggling about 80 different schedules. But Jared Spurgeon, this past season, his age 35 season for the Minnesota Wild, 66 games Spurgeon played in all told, finished with 7 goals, 25 assists, 32 total points. Spurgeon was a +8 on the year and kind of got back into regular power play mode, had a power play goal and 8 power play assists. All told, 107 shots on goal for Spurgeon and 240 attempts, shooting 6.5% on the season. Spurgeon played 20 minutes, 27 seconds per night on the ice. He had 119 blocks, 53 hits, 22 takeaways, 52 giveaways, and had a goal in 6 postseason games against the Vegas Golden Knights. So, what was the deal with Spurgeon this year? Why only the 66 games? Well, it's because opposing players can't keep running him into the boards. Last year, it was Ryan Donato in the preseason got tangled up with Spurgeon. He went head over heels into the boards, and he was limited to just 16 games last year, had to have back surgery because he could not he had no feeling in his feet. So that's not great. Spurgeon came back this season, and early on, you kind of wondered, what was going to happen, because Spurgeon played the first couple of games of the season, and then all of a sudden he missed from the 12th to the 29th. And as Bill Guerin told us at the time, this was just part of the process. This was just part of getting Spurgeon back on the ice, getting him acclimated, was that there were going to be times when he needed a breather. He needed to kind of recollect himself after just an awful injury scare, again, courtesy of Mr. Ryan Donato. Spurgeon came back on October 29th against the Pittsburgh Penguins, hopped back in the lineup, and he played for quite a while, played all the way through the new year. But then Zachary LaRue had other plans, and LaRue, with a slew foot of Spurgeon, that led to Spurgeon missing from the beginning of January all the way to the 25th. He came back the 23rd against the Utah Mammoth. So missed another solid 3 weeks there, courtesy of, again, an injury that was just, well, it was careless and irresponsible type of play. And LaRue obviously has a little history of that. So it was a season that featured a couple of unintended breaks for Spurgeon. We'll talk about the injury situation in the back half of the show, but I just want to kind of go through more of the peripheral numbers as well. Spurgeon, as a defenseman, his Corsi for percentage was above 50%, 50.8 in even strength, 51.1 in 5-on-5. So he did a good job of helping push the offense. And we know that that is Spurgeon's forte as an offensive defenseman, is to kind of help push the play and to help generate offense. And he certainly helped do that here this season. In the postseason, as I mentioned, Spurgeon had the one goal. But I want to talk about the defensive play of Spurgeon throughout the course of the postseason, because Spurgeon and Jake Middleton got reunited in the postseason. That's been a popular defensive pairing since Jake Middleton came to the Minnesota Wild. And you look at what was done against that defensive pairing of Jake Middleton and Jared Spurgeon. One goal against as a pairing. Now, Spurgeon was on the ice for other goals. Obviously, power play, penalty kill factors into that. But just one goal against when that pairing was on the ice in almost 97 minutes through the course of 6 playoff games. So that grouping did a good job of limiting the Vegas Golden Knights from getting anything done offensively. As far as other numbers go, Spurgeon had 2.3 offensive point shares, which was the same amount that he had back in 2022-2023 when he played in 79 games. He had a 3.7 defensive point shares, which was it's lower than his typical numbers. He typically averages about 4.9 defensive point shares per 82 games. So a little bit of a drop defensively, but still very good. And his overall point shares were 6 on the season. As far as the statistics go, as far as the point shares go, Spurgeon's ranks amongst the rest of his counterparts. The offensive point shares, Spurgeon was 5th on the team in offensive point shares, despite the 66 games, and was 0.3 ahead of Freddie Gaudreau, who played all 82. Defensive point shares, Spurgeon was 3rd on the team behind Brock Faber and Jake Middleton, and his 6 total point shares was 4th behind Marco Rossi, Kirill Kaprizov, and Matt Boldy. So statistically, Spurgeon had another solid season. It just was another instance where he was limited in the number of games that he played. And with him at his age, 35, that is just going to continue to be a factor, a focal point, something that gets discussed plenty as the next couple of seasons unfold, because, he's not getting any younger. And the Wild have a legitimate question on their hands as to what they do. Do they keep him around? Do they, now that the trade protection has dropped, do they look to kind of move him? So we'll discuss all of those possibilities here on today's show. But again, solid season for Jared Spurgeon. Just much like with Jonas Brodin, came down to the games played. We'll hand out our letter grade for Spurgeon's performance. That is on the way as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel makes the betting experience incredibly easy, and they offer a ton of variety. So if you feel like going on a standard over-under, say you're taking the Vikings and the Bears for their Week 1 game out at Soldier Field, you can do that. If you want to bet the second half over or under, you can do that. If you want to bet on the Minnesota Vikings to win the division all the way down the road at the end of the season, you can do that. They offer no shortage of options to keep things fresh and to keep you at the top of the leaderboard. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Once again, we thank you for keeping us in your rotation as we get closer and closer to the start of the regular season. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms if you have not already, so you don't miss out. We'll have updates every step of the way. So let's get to the grading, shall we, for Jared Spurgeon. We'll start in the games played category. Now, for those that have been keeping track, for the everydayers that have listened to all of these that we've done, you know the grading scale by now. But just to rehash for those that maybe are tuning in for the first time or have not heard our player report card episodes, we're giving 20 points. Full scale is 100. We're giving 100 points. And it's broken down into different categories. First is games played. Spurgeon played in 66 games, which, based on our scale, puts him in the 65 to 74 games played category, which is 15 out of 20 points. So Spurgeon gets 15 out of 20 as far as games played go. As far as on-ice impact goes, Spurgeon had 32 points on the season, and that puts him for defensemen in the 25 to 39 point category, which gives him 10 out of 15. 40 or more points as a defenseman is the full 15 out of 15. 25 to 39 is 10. 15 to 24 is 5, and less than 15 points is 2 points. As far as the analytics go, that's the other half of this portion. So that's another 15 points. Spurgeon's analytics overall, very, very solid once again. As far as on-ice goals for go, in 5-on-5 play, Spurgeon was on ice for 2 goals per game in 5-on-5. And that's far and away one of the leaders on the team, and that's actually his highest mark since 2020, 2021. And still, 2.0 goals in 5-on-5 play per game. Another reason that this Wild team continues to be one of the leaders as far as 5-on-5 goals against goes is because none of these defensemen give them up. So Spurgeon's overall analytics were great. So I gave him a 5 there. But looking at the other two portions, power play and power play quarterback and penalty kill role, those are the other two metrics, and that's how you get the other 10 points. Spurgeon, he played on both units, but I wouldn't say he was a focal point on either. Spurgeon averaged 51 seconds per night on the penalty kill. And as far as defensemen go, Jonas Brodin, Zach Bogosian, Brock Faber, Jake Middleton all played more. Obviously, with Spurgeon working his way back from injury, seemed like a pretty conscious choice to try to limit his opportunities and to try to, leave more of a focus for the power play side of things. Spurgeon's time on ice amongst defensemen on the power play, he was second behind Brock Faber in that capacity. So still relied upon quite a bit for the power play quarterback position. And we did see both Faber and Spurgeon kind of rotate at various points throughout the season from QB1, QB2. They both played a role, and as Faber, it seemed like kind of struggled with it down the stretch, then Spurgeon went back to that top spot. So both guys getting the opportunities to utilize that spot, just depending on what was working best. So I ended up for that section, I gave Spurgeon 11 out of 15. So you get basically you get 5 out of 5 for the analytics. I went 2 out of 5 on the penalty kill, and I went 3 out of 5 on the penalty kill, and I think I went 3 out of 5 on the power play too. Not like a focal point, but played a role. So he gets 11 out of 15 there. Importance to the team and the role, and this was another easy one for me. Spurgeon is a top 4. He's kind of in between being the top defenseman and going to more of a second pairing defenseman, but he still is an integral part of the top 4 defensemen for this team. And the Wild don't really do the whole top defenseman, second defenseman. It's all about whoever is going to do the job at the end of the day. So Spurgeon gets the 15 out of 20 there for importance to the team and the role. Consistent top 4. Consistency and clutch. Now, this includes the postseason and just the overall season in general. I know Spurgeon gets a ton of guff for some of his performances, and he's not the largest in stature, to say the least, but he's still a good defenseman. And I thought the issue more lied with the offense than the defense in the series against the Vegas Golden Knights. So I ended up giving him a 9 out of 15 there. It just pretty solid, but he didn't play like a huge role offensively. Defensively, he just continued to do his thing. But offensively, he had the one goal, and that was pretty much it. So I went 9 out of 15 for consistency and clutch. Growth, intangibles, storylines. I went another 9 here because the key phrase being he maintained expectations and offered a steady veteran presence. And maybe if you aren't a fan of Spurgeon being the captain, maybe you dock him here a little bit because you want someone to, someone who is a little more vocal to step into that role. That's perfectly fine. I'll hear that argument. But for these purposes, I went 9 out of 15 for growth, intangibles, and storylines, which gets you to a grand total of 69 out of 100. Now, again, our grading scale is a little off, but that is because we are going anything below 50 here is the F. 50 to 59 is a D. Depth piece / disappointment. Below 50 is needs a reset. We've had one of those so far. 60 to 69 points is a C, solid but replaceable. 70 to 79 is a B, key contributor. 80 to 89 is elite and reliable. That's an A. And then 90 to 100 is an A+. That is franchise cornerstone territory. We've had one of those two. So Spurgeon getting 69. Again, it comes down to the games played. The the best ability is availability. And it wasn't even anything that Spurgeon could himself do because of Zachary LaRue. Had he not missed those about 3 weeks, you're talking maybe getting closer to, you're talking about getting closer to, 75, 76 games in that general area. And maybe he gets to double-digit goals then. Maybe he is able to do a few other things. But 66 games, that's when I start to get a little concerned, is when you're getting into the 60s and the 50s, then that's when we need to start asking the questions about durability. And Spurgeon being 35, as he gets older, it's just going to be harder and harder to continue to bounce back from the types of injuries that he has sustained. So Spurgeon, 69 out of 100. On our scale, it's a C. I know grading-wise it looks weird, but he gets a C, solid but replaceable. Had he been available for one of the injuries and not the other, then I think he is definitely in the B category. That's just the way, much like Jonas Brodin's grade. That's just how it played out. Came down to the games missed. Now, what does Jared Spurgeon's future hold? That's an interesting question. So we will discuss as we finish today's episode of Locked on Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is here for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Again, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Listeners, we've got a request for you. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you, as always, for helping us out. So what does the future have in store for Jared Spurgeon? There are a couple of different angles to dive into for this. So Spurgeon is in the final 2 years of his deal. He is signed this season for $7.575 million, and next season for $7.575 million. After that, Spurgeon is not currently on the books for the Minnesota Wild, and it's interesting as well that after having the full no trade clause, Spurgeon now has a modified no trade. He has a 10-team no trade list for this season and a 10-team no trade list for next season. And I will say the same thing that I said for Jonas Brodin when we talked about his availability is these guys aren't going to play forever. And it would be prudent for the Minnesota Wild to get a good look at what they have coming up beyond the Spurgeon and Brodin tenures. Brodin has 3 years left on his deal. He's making just $6 million per season compared to Spurgeon's. And I think it is a very realistic possibility if everything goes according to plan. If Zeev Buium comes in and gets comfortable and is able to play a top 4 role defensively and look the part, as I thought he had some good moments in the playoffs against the Vegas Golden Knights, but we also have to acknowledge it's a lot to ask for a 19-year-old to hop into the postseason and have that be his first ever NHL game action. But it was a learning opportunity for Zeev to see kind of where he stacks up compared to the rest of the league and what he needs to do in order to get to that same level himself. So it represented a great opportunity, and it was definitely worthwhile for him to do it. But now the question becomes, like, how does he do paired up with who does he pair up with, for one? Is he going to be with Jared Spurgeon? Is he going to be with Jonas Brodin? These are questions that are going to need to be answered because there are major implications one way or the other as to, you know, how the defense plays out, how the defense looks. Spurgeon has plenty of times covered for a more offensive inclined defenseman. And I think Buium's offense is going to be what kind of carries him through the early part of his career. But I think we fully expect that he's going to take to playing defense just fine once he gets up and going. So that's one part of the contingency plan. David Jiricek is another. It's a big year for Jiricek to see where he's at in his process, what he still needs to work on. He could be a player that slots in with Jared Spurgeon to offer just some defensive protections and to kind of help navigate Jiricek through the welcome to the NHL moments. There are others that you want to get a look at to see how they factor in, because once Spurgeon and Brodin are gone, you don't get the opportunity to, you don't get the dress rehearsal. Like it's opening night. You are in front of a live audience and you got to know if these guys are going to be capable of leading this defense once Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin are either have moved on or have retired. So it's a big year for the defense, but I think it is certainly doable. And I think the Wild are certainly capable of making these decisions. As for Spurgeon himself, I think if you can see Spurgeon have a year like he had this past year, it's pretty clear at this point that the skills are not diminishing. What has started to kind of fall away is the ability to quickly bounce back after an injury. And this is just part of getting older. Any walk of life, you take a little bit of a bump or a bruise, and sometimes you're not able to bounce back as quickly as you previously did. So it's going to be paramount to just see who is capable of stepping into that role, because otherwise you're leaving yourself pretty exposed at a critical time in team history. So I don't think Spurgeon's going anywhere this year, but I do think the Wild have the conversation in the offseason. If everything goes well, if Spurgeon proves that he is capable of making it through the season without any major injuries, then maybe the Wild have the conversation at that point about, like, what does this look like next? Where do we go from here How do we land this gracefully is I think the big question that will be looked at by Bill Guerin and the Minnesota Wild as we get closer to that point. So for Spurgeon, again, a very solid season. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen to Spurgeon here as this season unfolds. Do you think he's going to stick around? Do you think we could see Spurgeon get moved? Do you think that would be something that the Wild should even consider? Well, where are you at with the defense? Just leave your comments down below and let us know what you're thinking as we get closer to the start of the season. But all told, solid season for Spurgeon. The best ability is availability, even though he didn't really have anything to do with it. I guess that's just a big thanks to Zachary LaRue. That is our episode for today. Appreciate everybody tuning in as you do each and every day of the week. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Locked On Wild has you covered all week long as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day.